It's time for the Mac Geek Gab, and listener, also my son, Mac, brings us our quick tip of the week with lift subject from background. Now, you all know about this from iOS, that if you have a photo and you press on the picture of a dog or a person and hold it, press and hold, an outline will go around that person, that subject, and you can lift that subject out of the background. Great, easy to do, share it, put it into other apps. Well, my son figured out, do it with a picture of a document, and you can lift it out of photos and drop it into notes. More quick tips like this, plus your questions answered today on the Mac Geek Gab number 1002 for Monday, October 2nd, 2023.
And welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in tips just like that. You send in your questions, which we try to answer. You send in your cool stuff found, which we also share. We pull it all together into an agenda. We try to organize it thematically and in an interesting way so that we are certain to each learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. We have, as a sponsor for this episode, fastmail.com/MGG. That's where you can go to get 10% off your first year with Fastmail. We'll talk more in depth about that in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Lee, New Hampshire, I think after 9 days around the world, it's Pilot Pete. Good to be back home.
It's nice having you back home. Yeah, you sound good. You're breathing into the mic a little bit, so actually I just sent you a text about that. But folks. I figured I'd acknowledge it since I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Excited to be here, Dave.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try not to do that.
Good stuff. Yeah. No, it's good to be back. It's good to have you back. I'm here still. We have another quick tip on stickers, but the first thing I want to do is highlight that this coming Sunday, so the episode is going to release on October 2nd. That means the coming Sunday, I believe, is October 8th, if I'm doing the math correctly, at 7 p.m. Eastern. So later than we have done our Hangouts in the past, we are doing our next Hangout. Now, these Hangouts are just really for us all to get together and talk. We do them on Zoom. I put the link in. We'll send out a mailer so you can sign up for the mailing list at macgeekgab.com if you want to get on the mailer for that. We will also put the link in our Discord channel at macgeekgab.com/Discord. And the link is already in our calendar at macgeekgab.com/calendar. So you can subscribe in any of those ways. I just can't put the link on social media because then we attract all the script kiddies. That's bad. Just because they aren't us. You know, they don't hang the way we like to hang. So we will have this Hangout at 7 o'clock 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday, the 8th. It's for everyone to talk. It's not a one-to-many. It is a many-to-many conversation. And we have found that it is helpful, although certainly not necessary, to have a topic that we announce ahead of time so that we can all bring something to talk about, though really wherever the tangents evolve during the conversation is always totally fine. So this one, let's talk about email clients and email service providers. This is something that comes up often with the changes to macOS Sonoma that sort of render a bunch of the plugins that used to exist for macOS Mail now no longer exist, or some of them are evolving into extensions, and some of them are evolving into their own apps. And there's just lots of email apps, and we all do things differently. So I think that's a good conversation to have. I can't take credit for the idea. Listener Chris came up with that, and so I love the ideas. It's great. So thank you, and we'll see you there. And hopefully lots of us can make it.
I don't think I can make it. I think I'm going to be on an airplane to London that night.
That sucks. All right. Yeah. Well, we will schedule the next one at a time that helps you, that works for you. I had to do this one. October is such a crazy month for my schedule with this theater show I'm doing and Halloween. So it was like, that's the one Sunday in October where it actually is going to work. And so we're doing it. Like, it's just must go. Yeah. So we'll do this one, and then we'll do another one sometime November, early December, and we'll coordinate a little better.
Yeah.
I do, as promised, have another tip about those fun little things that you remove from the background. You can turn them into stickers. Todd says, I've been playing with creating stickers in iOS 17. If you have an image app and can drop an image or logo onto a white background, iOS 17 does a real nice job of then creating a sticker from that image. Additionally, I have been importing these JPEGs into a new album I created in Photos called Stickers. I've also been placing photos that might make a good sticker in that album. Makes it easy to find them in one location when you go to create a sticker on your phone. Right. So he is not putting stickers in the album. He is putting photos that easily turn into stickers so that he can just grab them from the background whenever he wants and pop them in as a sticker into messages or whatever. So
that's slick.
Yeah. So, fun. I like it. So that's that one. We're supposed to do more now, right? The show's not over. Okay,
no,
great.
I don't hear the band, so
right.
Get on to JT Ray.
JT Ray says, my watch, now running watchOS 10, told me the other night that it was optimizing its charging. Of course, he says being ready for bed. I wasn't sure what it meant. Now, my Apple Watch Ultra only charges to 80%, just like my new shiny iPhone 15 Pro. The best feature they have adopted from Android. I rarely use 50% of my battery on my watch. Now it just charges to the right spot and stops. And indeed, there is optimized charging, not just on the watch for some models. I believe, looking at the screenshots we have here, you're still breathing into the mic, Pete, so I'm just going to keep reminding you of that. It is Apple Watch SE and then Series 6 and later. So the Watch OS 5 or Series 5 watch that I have is not that. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this also exists on the iPhone 15 as well, that I noticed with the my iPhone 15 Pro, but I know that it is there for all of them. As Apple said, there's a new. So on the iPhones with iOS 16 and iOS 17, we've had the option to turn optimized battery charging on or off, right? But with the iPhone 15, we have one more option, and that is, so we have no optimization. We have optimized battery charging, which is the old way of doing it, where it gets you to 80% overnight and then stops, and then resumes charging from 80 to 100 at some point just before you wake up, so that it's not just sitting at 100 all the time or for long periods of time, which Apple has determined is not optimal for battery longevity.
Right. And so, by the way, it surprises you when you have to get up for an early flight, you don't get your full charge if you're
you're at 80%. Right. Yeah. Well, now what Apple has added to the iPhone's 15 is a third option that they call the 80% limit. It gets you to 80% and stops. It doesn't go any farther. And again, this speaks to this idea, and clearly Apple has done enough research to support it, that they're putting these features in, that a battery sitting for long periods of time north of 80% is bad. If you get it to 100 and immediately start draining it, great. But if you get it to 100 and just leave it there, that will reduce the overall life of the battery. And this also supports the idea that this is true not just on our phones and our watches, but also on our laptops. Now, we're not seeing this 80% limit on our laptops. We are seeing optimized charging on some, but with an app like Al Dente, you can set your own 80% limit. And perhaps now Al Dente makes a whole lot more sense to many more of us, myself included, seeing how Apple's doing things on the phone. So
right.
I'll put yet another link to Al Dente in the thing. But I am using it on my laptop, and I'm absolutely using it on Lisa's laptop, which is now mostly sitting plugged in to an external screen and a keyboard. So it is basically a desktop Mac that can be extracted from its setup and taken.
Does it ever go above 80%?
Yes. Apple says with the 80% limit enabled, your iPhone will occasionally charge to 100% to maintain accurate battery state of charge estimates. Okay. I don't know where I got chargeness from. I don't know what that is.
New word.
Yeah, what is
word
charge?
Of the day, chargeness.
What is chargeness? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So, well, that's why you heard the ding a second ago, because I finally learned something here today, finally, on the third tip. And
glad to help, yeah.
Yeah. That was when I read those, I was confused, going, well, optimization, yeah, isn't that when it waits and charges, but it's not going past that? That's what I wasn't getting my head around.
Yeah.
So now that I grok that, that's pretty cool. So,
I agree.
Yeah. So we've got a bit of a theme going on here, Dave, I would say, because Aaron wrote in. He said, my iPhone 12 battery was around 84% maximum capacity, and it had very little battery life. After deciding I would hang on one more year, I went to the Apple store to change the battery. What I did not expect was that the phone magically became brand new fast. I mean, it was like a snappy new device, speeding through all the tasks, again, with iOS 17. He says that I knew that Apple throttled the phones, but I didn't realize how much. Based on this, I would recommend a battery change if your battery's maximum capacity is in the mid 80% range and you notice your phone is being slow. For $93 for a brand new experience, it's worth it. Keep up the good work, Aaron. So that's awesome.
That's surprising. I didn't think that I knew that this would start to happen at some point. I didn't know that it would happen at 84%.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And I think because I'm using my phone as on a camera, I can't see my maximum capacity on my 3-year-old iPhone 12 Pro Max. But,
right, yes.
I'll be interested to see what exactly that is at and go from there. I did order the 15 this week while I was on the 15 Pro Max while I was on the road this week. So I'm expecting that by the end of October. So it seems like it's kind of a popular phone.
Yeah, or at least more popular than Apple budgeted their factories to make. So, yeah.
So go buy your Apple stock now, folks. Full disclosure, I do own some Apple options. Buy as much and as fast as you can. That's my tip for you.
Sweet. Yeah, that's
Pilot
interesting.
Pete is not an attorney or a stock advisor. Consult your own advisor first.
That's right. That's
Advice
right.
is meant for humorous purposes only. You may not sue Pilot Pete.
I'm going to take us to Bartender because I came up with some quick tips for Bartender this week. Bartender,
Love
of course, being
Bartender.
Yeah, Bartender 15 is now out. Bartender is an app, if you don't know, that allows you to control what and where menu items appear in your menu bar, and you can choose to have some that don't appear in your menu bar unless you can create like alternate menu bars. Now with Bartender 5. You can create preset menu bars so that when certain conditions happen, it changes. So it changes to a different menu bar.
Nice.
You can say, if I'm connected to Wi-Fi, show me this menu bar. If I'm on, in this location or whatever. So there's quite a few things. One tip that I have, you need Bartender 5 for macOS Sonoma. I've got macOS Sonoma running on my laptop right now, and so I've been testing all kinds of things with it. Of course, you need it. You need Bartender 5 to work right with macOS Sonoma. Delete Bartender 4 from the same Mac. I was having some weirdness going on, and things got way better. Once you've done that, then make sure you go into Bartender 5 into its preferences, general, and reconfigure your menu bar spacing. One of the nice things that Bartender lets you do is control how much space is between each of your items. Over the years, Apple has added more and more space by default. And while that might be really nice on my 27-inch screen here in the studio, it's not so great on my 15-inch or 13-inch laptop screen with a notch, right? Yeah. So they have 4 different spacing levels, starting with the widest being Apple's default, and you can get down to absolutely no spacing where your menu bar is just all crammed together. And once you get used to that, I actually kind of like the all crammed together. And of course, I can get lots of things in there before the notch.
That's almost a dual cool stuff found in there too for Bartender.
Yeah,
because I'll tell you, if you don't have Bartender, I believe it's in fact, I'm sure it's in Setup.
It's in Setup,
because that's where I have mine. I have more than 30 menu items, and I couldn't survive without Bartender. That's almost as important as Clean My Mac, and
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more important. I think it's certainly one of my desert island utilities, right?
Yeah, you can't read your regular program menus if you cram all that stuff in all your menu items up to the top there without Bartender. It just would be
And evidently, I called it Bartender 15, but it is Bartender 5. Is
I thought you said, yeah.
Yeah, I think I said both. I was mixing and matching, Pete. I was just trying to keep everybody on their toes. You want to take us to Larry?
Oh, Larry. Where do I begin, Larry? I don't know what to tell you. Hello, geeks. So yesterday, after updating to iOS 17 and the day before switching out my new eSIM for a physical SIM card, iMessage is no longer working on my phone, assuming his iPhone. All of my iPhone friends' text messages are in green, and I can't send pictures to them either. Yesterday, I called Apple, and they said iMessage could take 24 hours to connect. Could this be true? I've never heard of this. So,
but sure enough, it worked out, right?
True. It's true. It's true. To quote the great Madeline Kahn in Young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, I believe.
Frankenstein. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Or maybe that was Blazing Saddles, but I'm going to keep us out of trouble. It turns out, yes, Apple says it can take up to 24 hours. They're not getting around this time. I always like that. We're going to send you an email. It could take up to 24 hours for it to get there, and it's already sitting on my screen. This time they're serious. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And another thing, Dan wrote in as well about this. And once connected to iMessage on his new phone, he noticed, he's like, look, I've synced everything to iMessage in the cloud or whatever they call it, messages in the cloud, I guess. And he's like, but I looked and I only have messages going back to July. What gives? And I didn't see his email for a few days because I don't necessarily check the Mac Geek Gab email box every single day. And it had been a few days, and I said, I think in the past I've seen this too. Check again, would you? I think it sometimes takes a lot of time to sync down, gigabytes and gigabytes of your message history. And sure enough, he was like, oh, yep. He's like, it's all there now. I was like, so yeah, patience is the...
yeah. But there's still something weird going on with mine because, for instance, that quick tip we opened the show with, I read on my work iPad. Okay. That's where it came in.
Yep.
And I presume I can't check it on my phone right now, but I went to get the exact verbiage before the show so I could do it out of messages on my laptop. And guess what ain't there?
Really?
Yeah. And I've noticed that with a couple other text strings that I'm not getting it perfectly synced betwixt all devices. So something's still
interesting.
Hinky.
Interesting. Yeah, right. Huh.
So.
Huh. All right. Yeah.
So I've got more work to do, I think, is what it boils down to.
Yeah. Syncing's hard. I know we all take it for granted these days, but it's not easy. In the process of upgrading to my new iPhone 15 Pro, I am a Mint Mobile customer, which won't come as a great surprise to anybody who's been listening for a while. Mint did not auto transfer my eSIM over. I just had to launch the Mint app on my new phone and just tell it to install a quote unquote new eSIM on my 15 Pro, and it did that, and then everything was fine. As a force of habit, simply because I've been traveling enough internationally over the last year and a half where I do this as a matter of course when I get a new eSIM for travel. I did this with my eSIM. I went in to settings cellular and looked at the settings for my cellular plan and noticed that my low data mode, which I leave on all the time on my Mint plan, had been turned off presumably because it was a new SIM. But I don't know. It might have also been turned off if you migrated even a SIM, for a different carrier over. So the tip is just go check low data mode on your new iPhone if and when you get one, just to make sure that it is set the way you want it to be set. And the same would be true for the 5G modes, because you can have it, use more battery or less battery and, all that stuff. So just go check all your cellular settings on a new phone, even, and perhaps especially if you did migration from one phone to another and just presume everything to be the same. It might not be. So, yep.
Yeah.
Yepper.
And here's one that's going to tick people off.
Okay.
You've got it. It's your next one.
Oh.
Because that functionality has been there the whole time, and they just haven't ever turned it on.
I know. So
here it comes.
With tvOS 17, which I had to manually install on my Apple TV this morning. We're recording this on Friday the 29th. It's been out all week, more than a week. So I had to go and manually do it, whatever. You now have the ability, if you have the Siri Remote 2nd gen or later, your iPhone can use a Find My Like functionality to locate that remote. It doesn't have the ultra wideband, so you're not going to get super directional stuff, but you will get the hotter, colder thing that you used to be able to get, with the non-ultra wideband Find My devices. And it works. But here's the thing. I upgraded to tvOS 17. I already had iOS 17. You need both. Mm-hmm. Upgraded to tvOS 17, and the way you find this is you don't use the Find My app. Oh. Right. You launch the Remote app on your phone, which you can either do by launching the app called Remote, or if you have it in Control Center still, which it's there by default, you can go into Control Center and tap the little icon that looks like your iPhone, like your Apple TV remote. Yeah. And then it launches the Remote app. Where you find this is there's a drop down at the top where you pick which of your Apple TVs or other devices you're going to use the remote with. And it's weird that I have other devices showing up in there, but I do. Next to the compatible devices in that list is where you will see a find icon or a find button for the remote. But mine wasn't there right away. I waited probably 10 minutes messing around with the TV, making sure everybody was on, tvOS 17, iOS 17.
You weren't holding your tongue right, Dave.
No, then I turned it off. I turned the Apple TV off with the remote and put it aside and did a couple other things and was like, all right, I got to go over to the office now because we're getting close to record time or whatever. And I thought, well, let me try it one more time. And I launched the Remote app on my phone. And not only was it there in the list, there was a little notification sort of overlay, pop-up bubble in the app teaching me that this feature was now there. So, but you don't use Find My to find it. In fact, I should confirm that it doesn't also show up in Find My. So
there you go. While you're doing that, let me ask you this question.
It's not there.
To which I think I know the answer.
Yeah.
It won't play a sound on the remote.
No, it's not like the remote has an AirTag in it. Yeah. It's probably using similar. The Bluetooth of the remote. Like I don't think it's as AirTaggy as we would want it to be. Because I would like the remote to be able to like make a sound so I can dig in my couch cushions and find it. That's where the value is, Apple. All right, I am happy to bring Fastmail back on as a sponsor for Mac Geek Gab because Fastmail is my email provider of choice. It is the one I've been using for, I think at least 4 years, maybe longer. Fastmail really is the email provider that puts your privacy first. And for over 20 years, they've been a leader in email privacy, right? It's ad-free. There's no tracking. It's not just email. You can use Fastmail for your calendar and your contacts. They have their own iOS app, right, where you can do all this stuff. But Fastmail also integrates perfectly with the Apple Mail app on my iPhone and on my Mac and on my iPad, of course. Fastmail's got some great productivity features, too. One of the ones that I really like is masked email, right, where you can hide your real addresses and you get better security for your logins and things like that. They've got things like snooze and scheduled send, custom rules, right? Fastmail is super easy to use, and they are also super complex if you want them to be. They're super technically savvy. I mentioned recently on the show how I've been actively managing my spam. Well, I've been doing that in Fastmail's web interface. Their web interface is fantastic. And I find it a great place to go every few days and just sift through my spam. You can use your own domains to make custom email addresses if you want. And switching providers to Fastmail I couldn't imagine it being any easier. When I moved over, I literally just logged Fastmail into my Gmail and it slurped everything over. I didn't have to do a thing other than tell it go. And I literally went to sleep and woke up and it was like, oh yeah, we're all set. Everything's done. You're going to love it. To learn more about Fastmail, visit fastmail.com/MGG for 10% off your first year. And then you can follow them on Facebook, Twitter/X, Mastodon, and LinkedIn. And our sincere thanks to Fastmail for sponsoring this episode. While we've got you here, I've got a great podcast recommendation for you. When it comes to Apple, the folks at Twit know what they're talking about. Leo Laporte, the founder of twit.tv, bought his first Mac almost 40 years ago in 1984 and has been an Apple lover ever since. That's probably why they have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 Apple podcasts on the Twit Podcast Network. The oldest, of course, is MacBreak Weekly, started almost 20 years ago. Alex Lindsay, Andy Ihnatko, Jason Snell, and Leo talk about the latest Apple news. They are Apple fans, but not Apple fanboys. They call it as they see it. And sometimes they're even a little hard on Apple. They also do a show called iOS Today with Micah Sargent and Rosemary Orchard. If you're into iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches, or Apple TV, you'll love iOS Today. And then, of course, there's Hands on Mac. Inside tips from Micah Sargent on getting the most out of your Apple devices every single week. Expert analysis, helpful advice, and entertaining discussions. Go to twit.tv/Apple to find your next favorite Apple podcast. And our thanks to Leo, Micah, and the team for doing this swap with us.
Okay, so that brings us to our time to go to questions and tips shared. Jeepster writes in and asks for some thoughts. He says, I'm trying to get my notes organized. I have around 200 notes with information about home, car, motorcycle, computer, etc., and so forth. Right now, they're all in the default folder, and I use search to find what I'm looking for, which works okay. I was thinking of using folders to organize the notes, moving them from the notes folder to one of several new folders which I'll create. I see I can create a smart folder and then assign tags to the notes, and this will keep all the notes in the notes folder, but I can also find them in their respective smart folders. Any opinions as to whether to move notes into folders or use tags and use smart folders? I'm leaning towards smart folders, but I thought I would ask so that I don't get caught. Dave, I've got a quick note on this myself, a quick opinion, which is use the smart folders. That's great, but be aware you can't nest a smart folder within a smart folder. And I think you can put folders within folders if you really want to get granular, but you can't do it with smart folders.
Yeah, listener Ben commented on this. This came up from Jeepster in our Discord, and he had said you can kind of use any of the 3, and it's similar to how it works on the Finder. Brian8944 said, I've been using folders, but have recently moved to tags and have found it easier to quickly add a tag at the end of my note, allowing me to retrieve the information later. This was an interesting discussion for me because I have never successfully used tags with anything. So certainly when I started with notes, and even with Evernote and Jimbo prior to that, I think they all supported tags at some point in their evolution. Yeah. And I never even tried it because every experience I've had using tags, I have failed with. I don't mean to say that tags are bad. It's just has been incompatible with my brain. Really tried it in Mail, and that's where it was like, yeah, no. But So with notes, which is where I've standardized a lot of my life, I've been using folders, but I'm finding that I'm creating a note and forgetting where to file it, or forgetting to file it, or, the idea of with Mail, I don't create the emails that I file, right? Somebody else creates them and sends them to me. So I am already in triage mode. My first interaction with a piece of mail I'm in triage mode, right? I mean, I'm also in processing mode.
Yeah.
But it's I'm going to do something with this, and it's all starting from the same spot. I'm interacting with it. With notes, it's the opposite. I'm creating the note, by and large. I mean, I have some shared notes with people, but in general, I'm creating the note, which means I have an idea. I just want to start creating the note. I don't want to stop and pause and say, wait, I'm about to create a note. Where should I file this? And then go into that folder and create a new note. So what that means is I am creating notes in the all iCloud folder, right? That's where everything starts. And then I have to remember to go back and file it after I've created it. I've got this inspiration, so I just go. And I think for that reason, I'm tempted to give tags another shot, because tags are something that I can add while I'm editing the note, not when I'm finished editing the note. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. In fact, I would say that I'm also a tag cripple.
Yeah,
I'm tag challenged, as
tag
it were.
Challenged, yeah.
But I have found that in notes I have several smart folders that I use in order to arrange, who are potential guests on my show, who has been on the show, that sort of thing, and that's worked well for me so far. I've used smart folders with some success. I'm not 100%, not perfect yet.
Yeah.
But the more I do it, the better I get at it. And I've also found the way to do it is to hashtag and then the note. And then I find that Notes offers to autocomplete the note for me. So I can select, it'll pull up a drop down and then I can just use the arrow key and go, I want the second one.
So I'm curious about something here, because this makes sense to me, and it's something that I think I'm already interacting with the keyboard, whether it's on my Mac or on my phone, right? Like I'm typing a note, so chances are I'm typing, and therefore doing the tagging the tags makes sense. Like I don't have to get into a different mode like I would to file the note in a manual folder. So I like all of this. Where I'm curious is if I've got a shared note with someone. Let's say I want to take this shared note that Lisa and I are using and tag it with family, something, just so I know where to find it later. Does that tag it for her too, is the question. And I realize I can find out this answer. I'm just thinking about it live while we're talking about it here.
I think it does, because you're typing it into the note. And it looks to me, it turns yellow by default in mine, which looks like a link.
Okay.
So it appears to me to be, data within the note, and then Notes looks at it and goes, "Oh, I've got a hashtag here. What do I have any instructions to do something with it?
What do I do with it?" Yeah. Okay. So I have a question for you now. I took Jeepster's note that you and I share in Notes.
Okay. Right.
And I added at the very end of it, I added the, pound sign hashtag MGG. Can you check in Notes and see if that synced?
Yes, it's there.
It's there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it does do that. So I would need to inform the people with whom I share notes, and there aren't many. There's a handful. It's my family and you. So I would need to inform people, if you see a thing out there, live with it. But now I'm imposing my tagging on other people.
And but here's the beauty of it is you could put, as we answer, we could even put it into the script, current show. And then boom, it would drop into the current show. I don't,
Yeah.
And then it I don't know. It seems like it would automatically go there for you.
Yeah.
But the problem is then you have to remove that tag or put a second tag in after it's read to get it out of the smart folder current show. I don't know.
As I'm thinking about this, I think for what you and I do with Mac Geek Gab, having shared entire folders that are shared is the right path. But for all the other stuff that I do, for me, and maybe it's that my shared notes are just my shared notes and I don't worry about tagging those, and that's going to be okay. I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
Let us know. Feedback at MacGeekGab.com. I'm really curious how you folks are using Notes. It's a powerful app, and I think we can all learn from each other, and maybe that's one of those things that's a good topic for one of our hangouts someday, too.
That's where I'd send it to, feedback@macgeekgab.com.
No, I meant feedback at macgeekgab.com, Pete, not the thing you said,
Right.
whatever that
Well, be
was.
sure to put a tag in there so that we can see what to do with it when you send it to us.
You want to take us to Allison, Pete?
I do, but if you know what I'd like to do, since we were talking, you talked about mail, I'd like to call a quick audible and bring up Bill and junk mail folders
I like
and then
it.
go to Allison if you're
Great.
cool with that. Yeah.
I'm very cool with that. Yep.
All right. So Bill wrote in, hi guys, when I'm trying to train my Apple email junk folder, does it matter what the device I use to move it on? New lips, sorry. When trying
easy
to
for you
train
to
my
say.
Apple email junk filter, does it matter the device I use to move an email to or from the junk folder? I'm wondering if I move emails to and from the junk folder on one device, does training apply to the other devices and my iCloud account?
It does. Yes, it very, very much so. iCloud is trained when something is moved in or out of the junk mailbox, out from junk to the inbox specifically. It doesn't matter which device does the moving. It's all synced. You can do it on your Mac. You can do it on your iPhone, your iPad, and you can even do it on iCloud as well, in the web interface.
So it's almost like when you move something in or out of junk mail that Apple silently in the background tags it somehow.
Oh, I see what you did there, Pete. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No,
Tag, you're it.
That's exactly it. Now, I will say that Apple, like a lot of the big email providers, Apple seems to prioritize their sort of meta heuristics for what is and isn't junk over your individual preferences as to what is and isn't junk. It does honor both, but I believe that if I take something like if the email I'm getting from you, let's say I'm subscribed to the mailing list for your podcast, right, Pete? Right. I don't even, do you have one? If you don't, you should. Okay, well, go ahead and make one because Pete's show, So There I Was, is great. So let's say I'm subscribed to the upcoming email list of So There I Was, and it all of those are just going to junk. I move those out of junk to my inbox because I want to make sure I hear from Pete and Fig. Repeat and Fig. Sorry, your pilot Pete here. You repeat there. I don't like it. It's crazy.
What'd you say? Repeat that?
I'm sorry. What? Huh? And so I want to make sure I get this. If Apple's mail filters were strongly of the opinion that was junk, my experience and my family's experience more specifically with Apple's training is that it will take quite some time for it to learn that for you, this is not junk. And I say this to contrast it to my experience with Fastmail, where once I started properly training their filters, and I should say that I went years with Fastmail completely ignoring any attempts at training their filters, and that is not such a good idea. So I had them reset my trainings so that I could actually start over and do it the right way, and I did that about a year ago, and it's been great ever since. But if I were to move that out of junk, it would, more often than not, that's all it takes. It definitely gives my preferences a heavier priority than say Apple's does. But it does work. You just need to be persistent about it. I find managing junk, certainly with Fastmail and even iCloud, I find managing it on the web interface really a great way to do it. I put a note in my a recurring to-do in my calendar for every 2 days. And I just go in and it takes me all of about 40 seconds to scan through everything that's in my junk folder. I sort it by sender name so that when I get a bunch from the same sender.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, sorting by date. Sorting by date is not it.
No,
either
sort sender, because then you see you don't want that sender at all. Boom, they're all gone.
Yeah. And what I do is I sort by sender or sort by subject. I find if I'm doing it when I used to only do it once every couple of weeks or once every month, I found sorting by subject to be the most efficient way to go through it. But I was throwing out a lot of babies in that bathwater doing it only, every couple of weeks or every month. Now that I do it every 2 days, I sort by sender and it works out great. Takes me very little time and I can stay right up on it and it's super easy. But yeah, sort by sender. And then I just scroll through. And the only thing I do is, mark messages that aren't junk. And the rest, I mark the ones that aren't junk. I say, move those to my inbox. And then the rest, I just delete. And they're gone. Yeah. And that's the end of it.
Oh, that's a great... It never occurred to me, though, to do it by sender. I've always just done it by... Because everything else is done by date.
Correct. Yeah, date's the worst way to do it. Because there's just no flow for my eyes to follow.
Well, yeah, because, spam by its very nature, those same spammers keep sending you the same crap over and over
and over again. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So,
and right. I use a service called SaneBox that truly keeps me sane. It's not terribly expensive. It's not cheap. Yeah. I don't know. It's a couple $100 a year.
A couple weeks now, as I recall.
Oh, I've been using this for about a decade. Yeah.
At least,
and I have it set so that when things that are newsletters come in, they're auto-filtered into a box that is newsletters and other things too. But my newsletters box specifically, I also go through on an every other day basis. And you might find this as not surprising at all. It's the opposite days from when I do my spam. So I'm only doing one or the other every other day. And when I sort my newsletters, I absolutely do that by sender because then it's way better than trying to do that by date too. So yeah, play with this stuff. Find what works for your system and your brain, and you'll get there. Yeah.
And when you stumble across something so simple that you want to go, so seriously, how did I not think of this before? Send it to us. Things like, sort by sender.
Yeah. No, that's it. When this is the best litmus test and the best sort of mnemonic, right, for remembering or noticing what would be a great thing to share with the Mac Geek Gab family here is exactly what you said. Those moments where you're like, God, I can't believe I never did this before. This is so obvious and amazing. That's the thing that makes us ring the bell. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yepper.
So we got to go back in time a little bit, Dave, because this one's been sitting in the box for a few weeks now.
Couple of weeks,
yeah. But new listener Allison wrote in and said, I got distracted and didn't circle back to... Oh, that was me. This says, hi, Dave. When y'all were talking about Pete's Synology router and disabling the admin account, you said very quickly, quote, and change your password often, unquote. You probably don't know this, but back in 2016, Lori Cranor, chief technologist at the Federal Trade Commission, wrote a report about studies that have proven that if you force people to change their passwords often, they make less secure passwords. And then she had a link in there. I got to go find that.
I know. I already got it. It's in the show notes. Yep.
So I wrote her a response, but this is a whole discussion thing. If you get lost in the woods and know that you are lost and people are searching for you, the thing to do is sit still so people can find you. And I assume that that's why they say that about passwords. Leave your password alone. You're sitting still in the woods and someone's going to stumble across it.
Sure. That's why they advise to change passwords.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. Right.
And so by the same token, I've always thought, what's to prevent you from changing your password to their next guess? If it's a very secure password, and with things like some people still using LastPass, I suppose, but 1Password. What's the
iCloud keychain? I mean, there's the one built into our Macs now. Yeah.
Using those, highly encouraging to use very secure passwords. And if you're not using very secure passwords, shame on you. Bad things are going to happen. It's not if.
Well, and I think that's the point Allison's trying to make, and it's a good point. Is that if you're having people who are changing their passwords routinely are more
to monkey one and monkey two, and
they're more apt to be like, forget it. I can't keep going and generating a new one. It's just going to be monkey one. You got it. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Or monkey one exclamation point. Does that work? Yep. Okay, great. Now I'm done. And then you're using one of the 5 passwords that you keep in your head all the time. So yeah, I think
change my password.
I know.
Just
same.
It, Dave.
Like, I mean, how did you know that I used to have a cat named Monk? But we did. We had a cat named Monk, and we called him Monkey. And I guarantee you, I made some passwords with his name, and I probably still have some of them. But and now you've got me thinking.
But you've disabled the admin account, so now you need
correct.
2 things: the username and the password.
I guarantee you, the admin login password for my Synology was some flavor of that cat's name, guaranteed. I know what it was. This is not a guess, but it's disabled, so it doesn't matter. But the issue would be if your password is somehow compromised, and I think that's the flip side of this argument, is by changing them often. If you have accidentally written or intentionally written your password somewhere that got out into the wild, changing it often prevents that, right? Changing it often does not prevent the random hackers from getting in. They are just going to try random things, and it doesn't matter whether you're changing it or not, to your point. It's if you've shared it intentionally or accidentally, by changing it often, you are sort of limiting the amount of people that would have access to the current password. And both of these schools of thought make sense, but the practical result of forcing people to change their passwords regularly is exactly what Allison and Lori Craner pointed out. Yeah.
But the other thing you should never do,
yes, sir,
and I think you'll agree with me on this, Dave, is have the same password for multiple different logins accounts.
Oh, agreed.
Because
yeah, my Synology admin passwords on all my Synologies were exactly the same for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. And the same 5-character login name called ADMIN, right? Like this was super insecure. Yeah. 2-factor authentication now exists on my Synologies because, gosh, it would be a disaster.
I need to do that. I don't think I've done that yet, but
2FA
is huge. That's just.
Yep. I agree. Yep. I was talking to 2 people very close to me. I don't want to out my wife and son, so I won't acknowledge that it was them. But talking about 2-factor authentication, they were having a conversation about 2-factor authentication, and at least one of them was like, "Oh yeah, anytime something tries to turn that on for me, I turn it off immediately. It's such a pain in the neck to log in." And I'm like, "No, don't do that." Yeah. Yep.
So their names rhyme with Mook and Misa, but
that's correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a show with Robin Williams, wasn't it?
There you go.
Shall we go to William?
We shall.
Am
I reading William?
Oh, no, I'm going to read William.
Okay,
that's right. Yeah, you're totally right.
I'm sorry. I'm back with you. I was gone for a while. I'm back now.
I'm same. Yep, we're here. We're both here. I'm going to read William. William says, I've been looking, now that I'm moving into this more USB-C world, but still have some USB-A in my life, I've been looking for a decent cable that has USB-A, USB-C, Lightning in a multi-ended way so that I can mix and match and be sure to be able to plug into whatever I want. I see plenty of USB-C ones or plenty with AC, micro and Lightning, but I want one approximately 2 meters long, and I want USB-A to power with, C and Lightning on the other end. And man, if the folks at Rolling Square could hear you ask for this, they would be so happy, because their in-charge cables, INCHRGE cables, are exactly what you're looking for. They have them in all different lengths. The ends of them are so intelligently designed. They are USB-C to USB-C cables at their core. And what that means is when you are using C to C, you get to take advantage of things like data transfer if you want, or I think they do data transfer. They definitely do 100 watts of power, because they can do full power delivery because the USB-C is the native part of the cable. And then one end has a Lightning connector that is built into the jack that you can just snap on or off as you like. The other end has a USB-A connector on the, that you can snap on or off as you like. And the best part, I didn't even know this until one of you pointed it out to me about a year ago. that the Lightning connector is also a micro USB connector. It like when you look at the end of it, it's like, oh, wow, how did they do that? It's amazing. It looks like a Lightning connector. It also looks like a micro USB connector. So you can have...
Depending whether you're looking at it end on or by the side. Huh?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
It's C to C, C to A, C to Lightning, or A to Lightning, or Lightning to... You can do, Lightning to C with this. It's all mix and match. Every combination. You just can't do A to A with it, or Lightning to Lightning. That's really the only thing you can't do with it. And I know that when we migrated to phones in the past, we might have wanted a Lightning to Lightning cable.
Right.
But we don't need that anymore. So we're in good shape.
Are these the folks that we ran into at CES?
They are the folks we ran into at CES.
Okay. That's a great. I've got the little, I don't know, it may be 4 inches long cable with the multi-heads like that. And
I still have that one. They sent me two longer ones, and the four not mentioned people, Misa and Mukas, acquired them.
Snag one, did they?
Right before, they didn't make it off the kitchen counter, Pete. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I need this. Can I please?" Yep, okay, sure. So I don't have a long one. I just have the little short one, but it serves its purpose when I need it. I probably am going to pick up another long one to use as my sort of default cable now. So my default travel cable. Yeah. So that is what you are looking for.
Those are great little. Yeah, that's a great little cable. The small one that I have. My only feature request on that would be to have one like that where one end is a female, and you could then multiple. Well,
with USB-C, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's craziness. Pete. There's some cool stuff found that I definitely want to go through here. And before I do that, I just want to take a minute to thank all of our premium subscribers whose contributions have come in the past week here. As we say often, the premium program, you can learn about it at macgeekgab.com/premium. It is optional. It is for those of you who can and who wish to support us directly. It is certainly not mandatory. Listening to the show, sharing the show, sending in your questions, visiting our sponsors, all of that stuff helps immensely as well. With that said, I want to offer our thanks for this past week to $25 from Andrew in Honolulu and Bryn in Sun City and Fernando, and I don't know where you're from, Fernando, and Michael in Omaha and Thomas in Garden Grove and Robbie in Hendersonville and Sharon in Wesley Chapel, Randy in Westport, Kirit in Bloomfield Hills, Ed in Torrance, Doug in Richmond, Anthony in Bournemouth, Stephen in Linlithgow. Oh, I like saying that. Wayne in Waipahu, Mark in New Palestine. They were all $25 in the last week. $10 in the last week from Jeff in Chesterton, James in Melville, Joseph in Marietta, Jonathan in Plainsboro, Paul in Lawrenceville, Gary in Babylon, Stephen in Plainfield. I think I might have said Stephen in Plainfield twice. John in Vienna, and then a $60 contribution from Stephen in New York. So thank you to all of you for that. We couldn't do the show without you. It's a blend, right? Our sponsors help immensely. You folks help immensely. It all really comes together in a wonderful way, and I can't.
So maybe that was Stephen in Plainfield and his other brother Stephen in Plainfield.
And his other brother Stephen. That might be true. Maybe they're battling each other.
That could happen there. But now, so each and every one of those people has paid for the privilege of not having to share the show. Everybody else listening, you must share the show. It's state law. I don't know what state you're in, but it's state law.
Well, it's the state of bliss, Pete, from listening to the episode.
Bingo. Man. Make it so. Go out and share the show, please. If you can't contribute financially, that's cool.
It's totally fine.
Sharing the show is even cooler. Be one of the cool kids.
Be one of the cool kids. We're all cool kids here. Yeah. It's really great. Yeah, it's really great.
For nerds and geeks, we're the cool ones.
I agree. I agree. Yep. I want to, speaking of cool things, it is time to talk about some cool stuff found.
Oh boy, put your locks on your wallets, folks.
Some of this stuff is free, and some of it's not.
Go with that.
Stephen Robles from Apple Insider created a SuperMute shortcut for the action button. And so that in and of itself is a cool stuff found. And I've linked to this. It will turn on, if silent mode is on, it will turn it off. It will change the volume level. It's a great shortcut. And of course, he has linked to it. So when run, it gets the current mute state and then toggles the mute and the device volume one way or another. So you can just hold that shortcut and get a get a response to it. I created and he used Toolbox Pro, which I'm pretty sure we mentioned. I think it was just last week here on the show. Toolbox Pro is the thing that, if we haven't mentioned it, my apologies. It allows you to essentially. It's got all sorts of extra things to do with shortcuts. This is one of those things that Snailed It Development took over from Alex Hay when he passed away, and thankfully it still lives. So it's a great shortcuts utility. You've got to go check it out. So I
was going to say, if you mentioned it last week, I wasn't listening, but when you said
we
that,
mentioned
you
it.
did mention it. Yeah,
I think
one or two shows ago. Yeah,
when Rose took over the development of it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's the must-have shortcuts utility. So I'm glad it remains in development. Stephen used that to create it. I created a shortcut, Pete, that allows me to turn Tailscale on my iPhone on and off with a shortcut with my action button, because what would happen is I would be going to visit the web page, like I'd be in Safari going to visit the web page of one of my local resources on my network when I'm not home, and it wouldn't access it because I wasn't connected to my Tailnet. And so then I would have to jump over and launch the Tailscale app and click the connect button and then jump back to Safari. And this happens to me quite a bit. So I now have a shortcut linked to my action button that connects Tailscale for me. And when it connects it, I don't want it to show a dialogue that it's connected because I'm interacting with the phone. Like, it's in a moment where I want to do something. And so I don't want a dialogue getting in my way. But I have it vibrate the phone when it turns it on. And then when the toggle turns it off, because it gets the state of Tailscale and does something similar to Stephen's thing, it goes in the other direction and turns it off and then shows me a dialogue that it turned it off, because if I'm turning it off, I'm okay with that. So,
that shortcut.
I will. I'll put that shortcut in the show notes here too. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of shortcuts, Saurabh has one for us, and I just swear that I need to get there. Saurabh says you might want to check out Jellycuts, which lets you write shortcuts as code instead of the UI drag and drop style. This seems like magic to me, and yet it exists and it works. It's called Jellycuts. You can write code. It is, very code-y. Like so much simpler to do some of these things with code, and then it turns it into a shortcut for you.
Dave, I write amazing code now, right?
I do. Yeah, I'm aware.
GPT.
Yeah, that's right.
Just saying.
Yep. I was using ChatGPT yesterday to help me write some Apple scripts to replace to fill in some of the functionality gaps that I no longer have on my Sonoma machine now that I can't use SmallCube's mail suite. I've started writing just some I've got Keyboard Maestro triggering some Apple scripts to do some various things in terms of how I like to file my mail, and I even wrote one that will automatically CC the from address if it's coming from feedback@macgeekgab.com, or for our premium listeners, premium@macgeekgab.com. So when I'm sending an email, it auto CCs, because we're using SmallCube's mail suite to do that now. It's not working exactly the way that I would want, but I'm close.
Okay. So that's actually, I don't remember if it was before the show or since the show started that you asked me if I was on Ventura or Sonoma. And that's kind of the reason I'm still hanging on Ventura, because I need to configure.
We got to figure out a new workflow for ourselves because of Sonoma. So I know. It's But like all my filing of mail, because I used Mail Acton, which was also part of Mail Suite to file mail. So when I would, read a message, I could triage it really quickly with just hitting control whatever, and it moved it to where I wanted. That also goes away because Mail Suite in its entirety goes away. Keyboard Maestro and some cute little scripting, and I was able to fully replace that functionality. It's totally fine. So I've got a bunch of mail actions in Keyboard Maestro that are doing a lot. Not everything I need, but a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. You want to take us to Andrew?
I do, because Andrew told us about something really cool. Here it is, folks. Strap in, buckle in. VPN on Apple TV is here.
Yep.
It's real and it's spectacular. So there hasn't been much coverage of this. Apple TV now accommodates VPN apps. I've tried it and it works and it's awesome. On the TV App Store, there's about 10 VPN apps. None of the big players like Express, Nord, or Proton are there yet, but a few are. And there's a link in there about an article who shows you who's in. He says, I downloaded Pure VPN and set it up on a week's free trial. With just a few clicks, your Apple TV can appear to be anywhere in the world. 1 second, I'm in Amazon Prime Australia, my home country. The next minute, I'm in Prime USA. Last Thursday night, USA time. Friday morning in Australia, I wanted to watch Thursday night football, 49ers versus New York. And I turned, wow. Andrew, I was a fan of yours until you wanted to watch the Giants, but okay. All right. Just kidding.
Pete, we're Patriots fans here.
Yeah,
we are
right?
in the minority, my friend.
We are indeed. I turned on the VPN, closed and reopened the Prime app, and it showed me the Niners match with HD and 5.1 surround. Awesome. That's the trick. You have to close the app and reopen it so it wakes up and works out that it's in a new location. You do this by double-clicking the TV button on the remote and flicking up to close the app. It's amazing how you can travel 7,000 miles and Amazon doesn't notice the short time in which you so do. Okay, a few other things from my time abroad. I made the Apple Store accounts for the USA and the UK. I have now added them in users on the Apple TV UI. So just go into settings. Now when I want an app from either country, I just effortlessly switch to that store, download the app, and switch back to the Australia store. So yeah, I've downloaded PBS America, BBC iPlayer in the United Kingdom, and both apps work perfectly with live TV and recorded content. One more thing.
So the VPNs actually fool Apple's own app store currently.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good thing. Maybe we should cut this out of the show.
Yeah, that's right. Well, where I noticed it was in our Discord. Both Rod L and Porthos John were having a conversation about how Tailscale is now available on Apple TV. And Porthos John said he tested it by taking his Apple TV to work. And connecting it to his Tailnet, because the Tailscale app now exists on Apple TV. And he was able to see his home Plex library and connect to things directly and do all of that stuff. And it can be used as an exit node. So your Apple TV could now be your Tailscale exit node because it's on all the time. So yeah, it's fascinating. At least that's what I understand. I haven't messed with Tailscale on the Apple TV yet. I will warn you that some of these VPNs that are available on the Apple TV are not the best. Tailscale's fine, obviously. You're using that with your own stuff. But like Pure VPN, they're not like I should say I didn't do research right before this episode. My recollection of them the last time I researched them was that they're one of the VPNs that sells your usage data and all that stuff. So just be aware of that. Right. You may not care, and then that's fine. But
he was saying he did it as a trial just to see if he could get it working. So he said the other thing that's why this is a game changer. He says often the streamers have different licensing arrangements for movies, shows, different markets. Prime or Netflix Australia may not have, for example, all episodes of Breaking Bad, but Prime, Netflix USA, Europe, or Japan might. So changing countries, I can get the content I might not otherwise ordinarily get ordinarily get with my existing subscription.
Oh, it's
the only
amazing.
one that hasn't worked for me so far is Paramount Plus. I call this a game changer. As with access to other countries, I don't need to subscribe to as many streaming services to get what I want, particularly either the offerings of PBS and BBC. And I will also offer, though, that, and I haven't tried it yet, but when I wrote back to him, I said, here's where I'm going to be interested. I had DirecTV Stream for a while.
Okay.
And that one didn't seem to care where I was in the world. As long as I was VPN to the United States, it would let me do it. YouTube TV wants out of my iPad, I want your geolocation, your GPS. Where are you?
Yeah, but that's true with a lot of the other ones, Pete.
Yeah. DirecTV Stream doesn't seem to care. YouTube TV definitely does. So I'll be interested to see if I can...
Your
VPN.
Apple TV doesn't have any geo data to share with it, though.
There you go. Yeah.
Unless it's using your local IP address, which Apple always gets to see, like tvOS gets to see that. So in theory, they could use that and say, this is the actual location if the app asks.
Oh, so the question becomes, let me ask this, Dave. I've got YouTube TV app on my Apple TV.
Yes.
Can I use Tailscale and watch my Apple TV on my iPad? Is there a way to do that?
No, this isn't a remote access thing. It's not remote control.
It's showing, this is where my Apple TV, it's telling the streaming services, this is where my Apple TV is.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. So that's the problem. I mean, and I've gotten around that mostly fine with channels DVR.
Absolutely.
And that
yeah,
works
because
great.
that's happening locally. Yeah.
Except NBC
Correct.
Sports, CNBC, and several of the other NBC affiliated network affiliates have removed themselves from TVE, which is TV everywhere.
That's not true. I want to make sure we're saying this correctly.
They have not removed themselves. They have set up the authentication such that TV channels DVR is not compatible.
Correct.
With it. Yeah. So they aren't. Yeah. NBC hasn't said no. You can't use TV everywhere. Is not compatible with NBC, and therefore channels can't do it. So if you could find a way to get an M3U, then you could. If you could get an M3U URL and put it into channels DVR, it should in fact work with it. But I don't know. So. Dave, are you hearing me? It looks like you have stopped completely. You've removed from the stream. Okay, so I can't hear you, but I can see you. But anyway, so I'll continue to vamp for just a little bit. The point is I, several months ago, lost NBC networks and affiliates using channels DVR. I've tried a few M3U file URLs to try and get NBC in, and I've gotten some local ones, but they are only the ABC local, NBC local, that sort of thing. I'm not getting the network feed and the shows that I want, so I don't know the haven't figured out the workaround for that.
No, there isn't yet. It's true. It's true.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to take a minute. I want to change gears and talk about. I've been testing a couple of things here that I want to compare and contrast for you. You know how important my second screen has become to me, and I'm using them a lot when I travel. Everyone that I've set up with a second screen on their laptops for travel, or even just in their offices, wherever it is, and it's not limited to laptops, it's desktop people too. Every one of them has said, I don't know why I would need that. And that makes sense, because without having it, you don't know what you're missing. And then once you have it, you can't live without it. And so I've been looking for what's the least expensive 15-inch portable screen that someone can get that's not going to be terrible on your eyes. And so by saying least expensive, we're already excluding 4K screens. Now, I will say that for somewhere between $200 and $250, you can get a 4K screen from KYY from Amazon, and they're great. That is, to me, it's weird to say that that's the gold standard, but that's certainly the recommended screen if you're going to use this a lot. But for folks that are like, I really only have about $100 to spend. I don't want to spend $250. What do you recommend? I started looking at some 1080p screens. Now, both of these screens that I'm going to talk about here will pass power from the screen through to your Mac. So all you need to do is plug a USB-C cable between your Mac and the screen will power your Mac if it's being powered, or if you don't have power anywhere, your Mac will power this screen. And of course, you can power your Mac and have it power the screen. So it works in a vacuum, but it's also nice. In my hotel room, I will set up one of these screens, plug power into it, leave another USB-C cable dangling out of it. When I bring my Mac back, I just plug it in and boom, now my Mac is connected to the screen and charging and everybody's happy. I checked out two of these. One is the ViewSonic VA1655, which on Amazon goes for $112, $113 as of the moment that we're doing this. It's a 1080p screen. One of the things I really like about this is the stand on the back sort of just kicks out from the back, so it's not taking up extra desk space with the stand. I really like that. The other one that I'm looking at here is the INNOCN portable 15-inch what's the model of it? N1F Pro. $115, so $2 more than the ViewSonic one. I've tested both of these. The ViewSonic one, when I tested it, I was like, yep, okay, this is what you get for a 1080p screen. When I tested the NOCN one, I was like, am I sure this isn't a 4K screen? And it's not. Wow. However,
for $2.
it is the best of the 1080p screens that I have ever used. It's really super clear. It also has, the base is a little bit different. It folds sort of out of the back of it in a different way, but it sits very solid on the desk. My only complaint about it is that it doesn't have a cover included with it. When you travel with it, you've got to be careful. What I often wind up doing,
in a padded backpack or
I don't even bother padding it. I just put it, if I'm going to put it in my suitcase and check the bag, I just put it inside a t-shirt. I just put a t-shirt over it. And that way it just doesn't get scratched. That's all I'm worried about is some, one of the hooks on my luggage is going to scratch the thing or something. So I just make sure that it's inside a t-shirt and I'm good to go. But yeah, for $115, you can go directly to their website and buy it. I think for $99 on a what do they call it? They don't call it used. They call it a refurb. Right, of course. Yeah. So those are the two. I will list them here, but yeah, the NOCN is definitely my pick of the two. The ViewSonic isn't bad. It's exactly what I would expect a 1080p screen to be. It's just the NOCN for $114 is
it's interesting
way better.
You made the comment of are you sure it's not 4K? Because my question to you was going to be, before you stated that, and I guess I'll still ask it for not rhetorical purposes, but on a 15-inch screen, can you tell the difference between 1080 and 4K? And clearly you
100%. 100%.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know why, because you're right. Like, in theory, the pixel density shouldn't be that much different that you can tell. But whatever it is that leads a manufacturer to call something 1080p versus calling it 4K, and I don't mean to say that people are lying. I'm not an engineer of displays, so that's as far as I get to go with those comments. There's definitely a visible difference between the two.
So you're saying they're almost as good as the Retina display, Dave? Just to use technical terms.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I'm using them sitting next to my Retina display, right? Yeah. And so like that's the comparison, because it's literally right there. My Mac.
I guess I was kind of being a smart aleck. Because is the Retina display not a 4K? Or is it 1080?
It depends on which Retina display we're talking about. When you're on your phone, it's not even close to 4K.
Yeah, right.
When you're on a 5K iMac, it's 5K. Yeah. Your MacBook Pro is going to be different than your 16-inch MacBook Pro is going to be different than my 13-inch Air. But Retina means a pixel density tight enough such that your
cannot
eyes don't see the pixels.
pick
Right.
the pixels out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which what's funny is go back and use a machine that's 8 or 9 years old. And
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, you're squinting. You're like, I can't seem to focus. My glasses are dirty. What's going on? Oh, yeah. That's the way we used to look at computers every day.
Every day? Yeah, every day.
And
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
even notice it.
Yeah.
Those great big console 25-inch 480 resolution screens.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yep.
Amazing.
So that's those two things that I wanted to compare for us all.
I bet you got 2 more.
I do have 2 more, Pete, because I'm really excited about these 2. I have I have AirPods Pro. I like my AirPods Pro. They don't fit my ears as well as they do for some people, and so I that puts me in a position of looking for better, better things that for my ears, but that still have true wireless, that still have, and by true wireless, I mean, there's no wires coming from my ears, that still will charge in the case, that the case will charge on a pad that can sync to multiple devices of mine with ease. All of that stuff. And so I've been testing 2 of these sets of headphones, the JBL Tour Pro 2, which is $250 on Amazon, and the Poly Voyager Free 60 Plus UC, which is $295 on Amazon as of today. And both of these check all of those boxes. They also both check a very different box.
Okay.
And that is that their cases do something that Apple's cases do not do. And their cases have touchscreens on them, Pete. And
No way.
yeah. And the touchscreens can manipulate the earbuds while they're in my ears, right? So not only do they show me the charge status and other things on them, and of course the folks at JBL's PR team put my Mac Geek Gab logo on the set that they sent me to test out, so that I would be impressed with that out of the box experience.
They must have lost mine in the mail. I'm just
That's
saying.
right. Yeah. But using the touchscreen on both of these, I can control the ambient sound. I don't have to remember which is it? How do I squeeze it just the right way to do it which you can.
Yeah.
I just don't have to remember it. And it's really nice on an airplane when I see the flight attendants coming along. If I've got my earbuds in, say, my Polys or my JBLs, I just tap the button on the thing, and now I'm hearing ambient sound. I can see the battery charge level. I can control the EQ. I can set sleep timers. The spatial sound on the JBLs is configurable this way. So many different features and I can control play and pause on the cases too.
That's nice.
Going between, both of these fit me better than AirPods. Fit alone is the thing that has me choosing the JBL Tour Pro 2s over the Polys, because they just fit my ears better. But really, either one of these is a great choice, and I like them both better than my AirPods too. So either the Poly, the Voyager Free 60 Plus UC, or the JBL Tour Pro 2, they are fantastic little things.
Let me ask a couple questions then.
Yeah, man.
The sounds are, which one sounds better? You're an audiophile.
I use the JBLs more than the Polys.
Okay.
I don't have a preference of they both sound really good. Yeah, neither one of them sound, I would not choose one over the other for sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But I would choose them both over AirPods for sound.
Yeah. And then, okay, interesting. Very good. All right. And then what was the price on each of them again? Because that looks like some serious coin there. $250 and $295. Okay.
$250 for the JBLs, $295 for the Polys. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay, interesting.
So I would at any price, and I should just be clear in case it wasn't obvious. I received both of these as review units, so I paid the same price for both of them.
There you go.
I would choose the JBLs over the Polys, but again, it's just about how they fit in my ears. But they both, if I had never tried the JBLs, I probably wouldn't think to try anything other than the Polys. They fit my ears well. They're better than the
Sure.
AirPods. So
Nice.
yeah,
I
but
gotta say, they must have lost
like
my
the
review
JBLs.
units in the mail, but
That's right. Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
get here next week.
That's right. Yeah.
So interesting. On that feature, I just want to mention that for the first time, I tried the auto voice detect in my AirPods last night.
Yeah.
We were standing outside the airplane. They were loading the airplane, and
Sure.
and we try to stay out of the pilot's way because the only jump seats are in the flight deck with the pilots on the particular airplane I was riding on. So we stand outside on the top of the stairs, waiting for them to load the airplane, and boy, is it loud out there. The elevator that loads these 15,000-pound
Sure.
cans is a loud diesel engine, and it screams. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my AirPods in so that I use them as noise cancellation, which
Absolutely.
really works great. Until you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, and as soon as you start talking, all that noise gets amplified right through
That's
to
right.
your ears. It's like,
That's right.
So
Yep.
doesn't work in a loud environment when you're trying to have a conversation. I get what they're doing. If you're listening to music, enjoying your own little world, and then you need to talk to somebody, it is a nice feature. When you're trying to use them as earplugs, and that's not their intended purpose, I get it.
Yep.
But when you're trying to use the noise cancellation to protect your ears from noise, that ain't the way to go.
You got to turn off the voice part that lets the
auto
voice
detection.
in.
Yeah. You just got to turn it off.
I've seen people at concerts this summer using their AirPods as earplugs, and I mean, just like you did, it
I do
works
it all the time. You'll
Yeah.
notice at the hockey game I wear them.
Yeah, interesting.
Because, for two reasons. One, I listen to the radio feed, which
So you
comes
can
in
hear
about
the
90
announcers.
seconds later. Yeah,
Okay.
what was that penalty? I missed that.
Yeah.
That sort of, so I get that. But
Yep.
the other advantage is they're noise canceling. So I hear the
What app do you use to listen to the radio?
iHeartRadio.
Use iHeartRadio.
Yeah. And
Okay.
there's a local broadcast for the
Yeah.
UNH hockey games.
Yeah.
I get it there.
That's a really smart thing to do. I mean, I as a kid, I remember going with my dad and my grandmother to see baseball games,
Yeah.
and there would be people that would bring their little AM radios, and they wouldn't even have headphones. They would just keep them relatively quiet. But I always appreciated it. It was like, oh, I get to hear like the calls that far less talking happens in the stadium or arena or rink than does on the radio, because on the radio you're presumably not also watching, right? So yeah, that's interesting. Huh. Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
So, yeah.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. It has been an absolute blast.
Is the band lost? Where's
The
the
band's
band,
not
Dave?
lost. No.
Oh.
The sound thing that happened before, I wound up connecting twice to
saw
StreamYard.
that. Yeah.
Well, but I didn't know it because my window, I'm still on Monterey on this machine, and it has that problem where sometimes when you click, it brings another window to the bottom of the screen or something. And so I didn't think I was connected to StreamYard, but I could still hear you.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on? So then I started reconnecting to StreamYard, and that's when I showed up twice, and it muted me and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah, because it was funny, and that's where you heard me talking to hear myself talk and mention the word vamping and all that stuff, folks. And I'm looking at two Daves at the bottom of the screen and going, oh, Dave,
Where'd he
his
go?
other brother Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a show title for you.
There you
It's
go.
Dave and his other brother Dave.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all that happened. Once I realized it was like, oh, I know what to do. All right, great. Fun stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Thanks for checking out all our sponsors at macgeekgab.com/sponsors. And then, of course, fastmail.com/MGG. Today, thanks to CashFly for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. Thanks to all of you for sending in all of your tips and questions and cool stuff found. It makes what we do so much fun because it means we really do get to learn 5 new things along with you, and that keeps me excited about it. It keeps us excited about it. It's amazing. So thank you for hanging out with us. Here we are into quadruple digits. I've been trying to decide if we're supposed to put a comma now. Are we part of the comma club because we're in the 4-digit show? I don't know.
Right? Who knows?
I don't know what to do. I don't know. Pete, as I'm cogitating about this, do you have any advice for me?
I do. I got new shirts for us. And right on the shirt, that advice is printed for the world to see. That's a T there, not an F. Don't get caught.
Made on a Mac.
So wrong.
All right, we're out.
So,